Yo, it is day 10, so welcome. And I'm gonna remove my mirror so I don't stare into it for the entire time. Yeah, welcome again to my day 10 of this challenge. And I was just thinking before, this concept that I rarely ever know what I'm gonna say before I press record. And there is a deep sense of trust that there will always be something there. And there always seems to be something to talk about. Because when I'm being real with myself, there's always something relevant. It's always something that's occurring in my life. If I try to pre-frame everything too much, sometimes it seems to come out fake and it feels like I'm trying to force things. So today it is going to be around what makes the difference between someone who is a professional and someone who's a natural at something, really good at what they do, and someone who is not so good at what they do, and someone who's maybe pretending, who is winging it, kind of faking it till they make it. And there's a progression here. Currently, I feel like I'm in the winging it, fake it till I make it kind of space, which feels great. It feels a little mechanical at times. And there's also elements where I feel completely natural with it. And I'm going to refer this back to my years as a musician and what makes a good musician. When you look at someone who's performing and you go, hey, that person's really good at what they do. And when you realize how many hours that person has put into crafting their skill set and crafting what appears as mastery, is countless hours of failure and repetitive actions, repeating it over and over and over and over and over again, to the point that, well, they've kind of smoothed out the rough edges. So you imagine you've got like a bridge here, okay? You've got one path from one dot to another, and you go, cool, initially it's like jagged. We got to go from here to there, and it's like, it's really obvious that we're going from there to there. But as people improve at what they're doing between this spot and this spot, there's all of these little micro steps that are formed when we form this connection in our brains. And as this is practiced over and over and over again, the dots get closer and closer and closer together. And eventually it just looks like a clear passageway. And you go, they do it effortlessly. It looks so natural. And then what they do is they apply their own style to it as well, which is not just, hey, mechanically get from A to B. It's like, I'm going to get from A to B with style. I'm going to have some form of finesse to what I do. And within this finesse is the ability to make mistakes, because from this point A to point B, each person who is doing this, the more dots that they've connected, the more hours that they've put in basically, and the more that they've smoothed out this connection, the more that they're able to go, all right, they're partway along and they make a mistake here. And so they go, oh, and they correct it and they get back on and they keep moving. Anyone else who's watching, to the untrained eye, it looks like they didn't make a mistake whatsoever. It looked like a stylistic shift in what they did, when in reality they made a mistake and they corrected it. Now, as a musician for years, this has become a huge marker of what a good musician is, of a seasoned musician, is that when they make a mistake, they either say, I've seen it in a couple of cases, but most time they keep playing. They make the mistake and they move on with it. Because if they were to stop and point it out, it kind of ruins everyone else's experience of what's going on. Now, as an entertainer, this is kind of something that you can pick and choose, is to go, that was silly. Maybe you can point something out, maybe you can laugh at it. That's a smooth transition, a way that you can move on with it. Now, what does disrupt it is when we end up flustered, like really flustered, and the nervous system's shot, and we're freaking out trying to find the right words to say or to make out like we didn't make a mistake. And sometimes we just have completely dropped the ball and we go, oh, fuck, drop the ball. And this is humility, because no one is perfect. People simply appear perfect. Same thing with these videos. There's so many problems with it, and yet it's my raw expression, and it is exactly what it is. It's not trying to be anything more than what it is. And this is let's say the cost of going through more refinements. Because equally we get better at things, there also ends up more pressure upon us if we allow that pressure to get to us. For example, if I were to do these videos and at the end of the 30 days I decide I want every single one of these videos to be edited, well, that requires a whole new skill set, something that I'm practicing. Also, it's not something that feels relevant to these videos right now, and it's something that I'd probably sooner outsource to an AI, to be honest, because the amount of time put into this, I could be making more videos, I could be working on other projects, I could be working on my music. And so yeah, I'm looking at this time allocation thing as a working to my strengths and realizing what my strengths are, which I'm feeling like a strength is going to be doing this long form content. However, it's about building it into a strength right now, because my focus primarily is the voice, like in my music, in my coaching work, in my workshops that I do, even in this, it's all around practicing the voice. And I will be doing things like speaking on stage and speaking in front of crowds of people, strictly speaking, instead of the other side of entertaining, which is singing, which I love and I will be continuing to do. They feel different. There's a different sense of vulnerability and excitement to being able to interact with the crowd and simply talk about the things that I love talking about. And that is the voice. So last night I held my second workshop, and the workshop is around reclaiming your voice. It's called Reclaim Your Voice, and it's around gaining access to your soul's voice. And that soul's voice that's inside of you, the one that whispers, not the one that yells at you, that you argue with all the time. It's the soul's voice, that speaks through the heart. And really emphasizing this in the workshop and helping people to connect to that, helping people to put a voice to it and learn to communicate with it. As this has been a practice I've been doing for the last year or so, and also noting the times that I've done that prior and haven't realized I was doing it. It's so valuable to this expression, because otherwise we end up in places where we're not meant to be if we're not listening to that voice and expressing what that voice wants to say truthfully. And at the workshop, the thing that I love most about the workshop is that I have a plan, and again, it rarely ever goes to plan. It's intuitive in a lot of cases, because we'll be having conversations about certain topics or doing a process, and within that process is the concept that we're working with people. And if we try to rush people who haven't agreed to be rushed or to be on a time schedule in that way, then we end up rushing up their process, and some processes can't be rushed. For example, this practice of being here online, I can I can practice it and refine it faster by practicing it every day, which is what I'm doing. I can't make myself actually improve any better than what I'm doing. I can't actually force myself to improve. What I can do is put in more time. And by putting in more time, I allow myself the chance to adapt and to repeat myself. But if I set this plan out to do 1 minute per day, well, it's going to take a lot longer to get there. And if it was 30 seconds a day, it'll take a lot longer to get there. 30 minutes a day, by the end of the challenge, I'm going to have 15 hours of straight practice to a video camera. And that's only 15 hours. What's the measurement for mastery is 1,000 hours. So really, if I would actually up this and say maybe an hour per day, what's an hour per day over a year is 365. So I'd have to practice this for 1 hour a day for almost 3 years to really build up that skill set to be, hold on, that's only 1,000 hours, right? Not 10,000 hours. So again, to elucidate my point, there is, it's a lot of time to put into certain things. So we want to be sure that it's what we want to do. And so if we've listened to a good idea that sounded good in our heads and someone's told us it was a good idea, but we're not quite sure, if you're going on an endeavor and you're hearing this voice, there's something that's speaking up and it's saying, I don't know about this. This doesn't seem right. What's likely going to happen is you'll get 5 to 10 years down the track. You may have mastered a certain skill that you've learned, whether it's building up a business, or it could be relationship or family or having kids or really anything. And if it wasn't what you were meant to do, you may have regret, because you'll know that you've ignored that voice that's inside of you. And so if we're going to master something and become really good at something, well, it might as well be something that we're actually passionate about, something that we really wanted to learn from the get-go. And this is, for me, music, using the voice. When I'm doing stuff that isn't using the voice, then it's not revolved around, let's say, creating the business that is me expressing my voice. I don't really have much interest in delving into it. If I have, it's because it feeds back into that, because I can see that it helps. For example, learning business structures and learning about finances and investing and delving into the coaching industry. It's helped with my voice, doing coaching and going through coaching programs. That's helped with my voice immensely, and it's helped with me creating my music, and it's helped me to clear up a vision in my life, a vision on where I want to go. And that may deepen further as well. And the person that I will be in 5 years' time or 10 years' time may want a different vision, maybe up to see further along and maybe up to see more. And yet for the moment, I will accept what's there, which is pretty terrifying, to be honest. And so for those of you who are following along, you've got dreams and ambitions and goals. Does your inner voice agree with you on that? Or is it something that someone told you that you should do? Is it something that you think you should do? And I could go into the category of people going and doing uni degrees and spending money on, mainly uni degrees, to end up not using those degrees at all because they didn't want to actually do it, because they were doing it to impress someone. And so if you're doing it to impress someone or to satisfy your parents, or if you have done that in the past, just note that there is no expectation that you should actually have to use that thing. Sure enough, you've got the qualification, but if it doesn't align with this, there's no point, because you're going to regret it. at some point or another. And then you're going to wish that you had listened to that voice. And so, I've done this with relationships before, quite a few times, where I've ended up in relationships for a few years and ended them realizing that I'd lost myself completely, because the person that I thought I had to be in that relationship was not this me. I was pretending to be someone based off not wanting to hurt people, not wanting to speak the truth, not wanting to use my voice or to set boundaries, or to feeling like I needed to give my all. And in giving my all I did was build up resentment, and I was unable to operate within the relationship functionally anyways, because I was pretending to be someone. It was stiff. I had no sense of purpose. And so coming back to the refinement part, how long is it going to take you to realize let's say the mistakes that you've made? How long is it going to take for you to learn from those things that have happened in your past, from the choices that weren't aligned, and start choosing the ones that are aligned, the ones that do feel right? Because the ones that do feel right are going to be infinitely more valuable. And you'll have one that's popped into your head already. There's already one that you've possibly been ignoring, or maybe one that you're entertaining at the moment. And I would invite you to look into that. And instead of going into the typical questions of, well, how could I do that? I don't know if it's possible. That standard story which comes up, came up for me for years, and it still does arise from time to time. It's really asking, well, who is it that I'm being called to be? Who is this in here? And who does this need to be in order to match this? This vision that I have, what sort of person is the person that can actually do this? Are they determined? Are they lazy? Do they procrastinate? Are they organized? Are they not organized? Are they friendly? Do they speak their truth? Do they not speak their truth? And so within that invitation is the other element here of who are you going to be, and who are the people that are around you at that time. Because I've recently let go of a bunch of people that are not in alignment with my future goals. And I realized this because when I would spend time around, it didn't feel right. It felt like I was being pulled into a vortex, and that vortex was not, it didn't feel like growth. And then I go to spend time with other people and I feel like I'm being encouraged to grow. And so looking at that environment, which is so fundamental, the environment that you're in is going to craft what you're going to be. And so coming back into this refinement piece, if you're practicing pretending to be someone else, you're practicing being a product of a group of people that you want to keep hanging out with who don't serve your vision, don't serve your values, then you're going to keep reinforcing that old belief, that old thing, because they can only bring you to their level. They don't do it intentionally. It's simply a vibrational thing. And if you're going to move forward towards this vision, it's up to you to decide what sacrifices are to be made. What are you willing to let go of in order to achieve this dream, this vision? if it's doing things on YouTube, if it's whatever the thing may be, being an actor, being a musician, they all require us to be bold and to flex that muscle, to practice using that muscle, which is using the voice, which is being out there, being seen by people. And so ultimately we have to get over ourselves, because we are our own worst critic. And this comes back to this topic that I was talking about with refinement and how people get better at things over time. To that professional, to the person who is close to mastery, if they lose their confidence, they're going to worry that every little bit and every little mistake that they made, that everyone saw that mistake. And this is not even close to the point. And I'll link this in with a concept that I realized earlier on. There are people who are going to interact with what you do, especially if you're online, people that have commented on YouTube here. And just like there's people who have commented, there's people who have watched the video and gone, this guy's full of crap, or I'm not interested, or whatever the thing is. And that's all part of it. I'm not going to know that until that person decides to actually leave a comment or something like that. There are people in the background watching. Also, there's going to be people who are watching this who won't leave a comment. And that's cool too. I would encourage you to leave a comment because I'd love to hear from you. However, if you don't, that's perfectly fine as well. Because I realized I've been scrolling through YouTube for years and I have not left a comment on anything. I would have watched so many hours of YouTube and never left comments or even a like. It wasn't something that I practiced. I just went there, checked it out, left. And sometimes I've consumed like 20 hours of someone's content and not even subscribed to their channel. And realizing on the other side of this as the content creator now, going, oh man, I would really love to see and to be able to connect with the people who are interested in what I'm saying and the people who do resonate with it. Because that's how this community is formed and how we all improve together. We can all move along together. The more feedback that you're able to give me, the more that I can actually talk into that concept as well. And we can start to create a relationship, because that's what this whole space is about. It's about community relationships and forming connections, bringing in a space of support where people can actually go, fuck yes, you did the thing. And it's especially valuable if people don't have that in their day-to-day lives. If you don't have that in your day-to-day life, what are you doing to create that community of people who do support you? Because your audience may not be your friends and family. In fact, it's very unlikely that they are your audience. Your main audience may be on the other side of the world somewhere. They're probably scattered all throughout the world. And without you going and putting something out there, you're never going to find them. They're never going to receive your message. They're never going to actually hear you, because it's up to you to make that choice to move forward and to decide, you know what? I'm going to get over myself. I'm going to get over myself and do something about it. And again, back to the YouTube thing. Doing these videos as an experience, I'm so glad I've done it via the raw format that I'm doing. Because if I was editing all of these, guaranteed I probably wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have even got to day 10, because it just seems to edit a 30-minute video every single day feels like way overwhelming. It's way too much. And so therein highlights one of my shadows. It's and also something worth noting, because if we make something too difficult from the beginning, that is to make the workload on ourselves way more than we're actually capable of, not being not being real with what our previous habits have been, and also how big our goal is. Because if our goal is big, put this into perspective. If someone was going to the gym and they'd never been to the gym before, they decided, you know what, I want to be a bodybuilder. I heard this concept of I think it's called inverting. And it was something that Einstein has done, and a few people I've heard mention it. Inverting, which is to say, if I wanted to fail at this, what would I do? If I wanted to fail at bodybuilding, at becoming a bodybuilder, which is muscle built over time and becoming really big, muscly. If I wanted to fail at that, I would make sure to go into the gym every single day and overwork my muscles to the point that I couldn't even move. I would render myself completely almost broken. I would make sure to lift way more than I'm even capable of. I wouldn't condition my muscles. I would choose to not eat sufficient food. I would choose to not recover. I would choose to not take rest days. And I would set wild, unachievable goals and not actually set out goals to get there. So let's say you've got a goal that's a year from now. Well, that's fine. But if you try to sprint from the start line, there's a very strong chance that you'll end up breaking a leg. You'll hurt yourself. You'll end up having an injury, and you won't be able to even get close to that because it'll be self-sabotage, and you've created it yourself. And so if you wanted to become a good, strong bodybuilder, well, then you have to do the opposite of those things. And I don't speak from experience with bodybuilding. It was the example that came through. And so if you started off doing smaller reps, doing lighter weights, doing stuff so that you can simply get used to being in the gym, maybe just turning up to the gym, maybe just doing a few reps here and there, but making sure that you turn up to the gym every single day. That might be more beneficial than trying to outdo yourself or try to achieve your 1-year goal in the first month. And so in doing that, you can actually set out achievable goals. The achievable goals being, hey, I'm going to achieve this and I'm going to allow myself to feel good by achieving it. I'm not going to put myself down. I'm not going to say I could have done better. At the end of this 30 days, I'm going to do a video that will be a form of review on my last 30 days and reveal what I will be doing next from that. I may even continue going. I'm not going to set that yet because I also want the satisfaction of finishing 30 days. Because it could be really cool to do a whole year straight. That'd be amazing to be able to do that. Again, if I was to set a year of daily stuff, there will be no refinement on these videos. Unless for some reason I've got some sort of AI that can do it really easily and it's stylish and works. And that's something possibly to look into. But ultimately, that rawness is going to carry me further, and I can refine bit by bit along the way. For example, lighting. I'm using the sunlight coming in from my window here, yet if it's overcast, I don't have very much lighting at all. So I've got some light bulbs and stuff around, and that's also something that I'll be refining. I've got this microphone here, but there's also, I don't know if you can see it in the frame, I've got this microphone. That's something that I use to do my demos and everything at home. However, when I go to use that requires me using my computer, and it requires me piecing the video together with the audio. And that's something that might take me an extra, maybe it takes me 20 minutes to do it each day. Within this practice, it doesn't actually serve the purpose of the practice. So when you're setting out these goals and setting out these daily practices, are they something that's easily achievable? or are you setting yourself up for failure? Because what we often do is, especially around New Year's time, that's a key one, is setting these goals that we want to achieve from New Year's Day, and it gets to 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in, and we're going, that's way too hard. You know, I was very ambitious, and so many people stop these goals. And so this year I decided I'm going to get a rolling start on it. And actually this challenge started up a few days after New Year's, admittedly. It was something that just felt right. It wasn't necessarily a New Year's resolution. Maybe it was in some regard. Yet it felt right. And it felt like if I want to be the kind of person who is very good at long form content, who people go, hey, this guy is really good at what he does, to develop that reputation, to be able to help people to use their voice in this world. If I can be a voice for that, then my mission will be achieved. If I do that through unrefined content in the short term, by doing this, then great. If I need to refine my content so it shows up on certain pages and so I get more views, that may be something that I'll have to look into. And yeah. So, signing off words, if you are looking to start an endeavor, start something. Set yourself a small, achievable goal that you can repeat. And I'd love to hear about it in the comments. If you've got something that you've been working on, that you're afraid to work on, that you are holding back, if you are saying to yourself that I'm gonna do it when this happens. I'm gonna do it when this thing aligns. And if you're doing that, it's like you may not ever end up doing it. What's the phrase? The best time to plant a tree was, 100 years ago, and the next best time is now. And so with that, I am done for the day. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for day 11. See you guys.